Hi there everyone, Lars here, returning back to my review of Vermeil to also provide a little bit of neat pacing analysis, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And wow, I have to be honest, I am really enjoying this anime adaptation of the manga Vermeil. And I'm really going to stress right here, adaptation, because in this video, what I want to do is I don't want to just simply give a review of what happens in the events of episode 2. You should check that out for yourself. But what I really want to do is I want to dive a little bit here into the pacing that the show is demonstrating right here and how they are adapting the material within the manga. I could very easily title this little video right here with the clickbait of "This stuff they left out. What did they drop from the manga?" Because there actually is a whole lot that has not been covered from the manga thus far. But I actually think that that is honestly a good thing on their part if they're going the route that I believe that they are. So allow me to explain. Episode 2 of Vermeil basically covered 3 chapters of the manga all in one go. We are quickly going to where the manga picks up in terms of action, where we get to see a whole lot more of the battles, where we get to see the intrigue unfold, where the villains start coming to light. And I'm honestly a little bit surprised right here, because I was expecting that, even though the show would go pretty quickly, that it would be kind of a chapter per episode right here. So that way we could really focus on the relationship between Vermeil and Alto. However, we don't really get that here. We are getting some great character development and some development on the part of their relationship, but not as much as what we get in the first 4 chapters of the manga. And I think that the reason for that is because within the manga itself, Vermeil is a much more nuanced character. It's very hard to actually place if she's evil or not. For the longest time, you get definitely some moments where you're like, "Ooh, that was sinister, what she just did right there." But then a lot of it just comes off as her just kind of playing around, being a kooky succubus, because she's a succubus. It's what you do. You flirt, you're weird, you get people aroused, and you make people do stupid things. That way you can suck the energy and the life out of them while they're tripping over themselves because their pants are falling down to their ankles. That's basically what you would expect. However, the anime is going more the sinister route, really focusing in on how she is a demon, and how the things that she does, especially around Alto, are of a dubious nature, that she is very much self-serving. Again, you get that in the manga, but it's balanced out with a lot of the sweet stuff that we see between the two when they are alone. We're not getting that here in the anime, and I think that the reason why they're doing that is not so that way they can just focus in on the super steamy bits within the anime. In fact, if they actually wanted to go that route, holy cow, they could have gone really steamy with a couple of these scenes, but they didn't. I think that the anime Vermeil is going the route that was taken with Nagatoro, with Please Don't Tease Me Nagatoro, where they jumbled up a lot of the order of the early chapters within the manga, so that way then they could show, here's the really toxic bad relationship between Senpai and Nagatoro, and now we're going to show how over time it evolves and becomes something way more precious and wholesome as they slowly fall in love. I think that that's actually the route that Vermeil is going to go as well. They're going to focus in on how sinister Vermeil actually is, and how she is definitely using her dubious nature as a succubus to take advantage of Alto, until certain events start coming around and she begins warming up to Alto. Furthermore, they can actually easily take a lot of the elements that they left out in the first few chapters and then insert that stuff later on to show that the two of them become way more comfortable around each other and that they start opening up. This comes through the manga in a lot of the early morning scenes, as the two of them are just alone getting ready for school. Vermeil is flirting with Alto, but it's nowhere near as sinister as what we usually see. It's more playful, it's more friendly, and we see how, through honest conversations that she has with Alto, she learns more about him, he learns more about her, and they slowly start falling for each other. The manga goes for the more nuanced route, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, what that means then is, like I said, when you just read the manga, you're uncertain whether or not Vermeil is actually an evil entity. If anything, you're just like, okay, it's a succubus. She was probably just sealed away when all the other demons were sealed away. But the anime is definitely taking its time to show that there's something darker about her. So what I expect is going to happen, this is what I think is going to happen here with the pacing. The next episode is going to be dedicated to the full-on just saga / battle. It gets kind of weird because there's multiple struggles that happen within this particular arc where Alto and Vermeil take on the Dragon Riders within the school, and this is going to lead to various different battles. It will lead to a reveal for who one of the villains are, and it will mean that Alto now really begins rubbing shoulders with some of the people that he looks up to and who he aspires to be like, just as we've learned here in episode 2. So the anime is focusing right now more on the action and on the plot, really taking us to a certain point where then the manga then starts driving home that Vermeil is falling for Alto, and Alto, despite himself, is beginning to fall for Vermeil. At that point, you can then start taking these fluffier moments from the manga and you can insert them on in, so that way the pacing isn't disturbed at the very beginning as you're striking home the fact that Vermeil is a demon, that she's evil, and that there's a lot of crazy stuff happening behind the scenes at the school, and that Alto is quickly climbing the charts to become one of the more powerful students thanks to his relationship now with Vermeil. This is where pacing is really, really interesting to look at as a writer, because normally when we think of pacing, we usually think of, okay, so how fast is a scene unfolding? What is the economy of words that we're using? Are we trying to minimize the number of words that we're using? Are we trying to maximize the effectiveness of our words? Or are we just creating a fantastic word salad that takes 20 chapters, or I should say 20 pages to get through one chapter, or worse yet, 20 chapters to get to the point? Different writers have different methods that they feel is best to communicate their story. This is pacing. How fast do we get to the important parts in terms of plot and in terms of character? Right here within the anime Vermeil in Gold, we see pacing being used to rapidly advance the plot and establish certain key elements of the world. Like I said, that Vermeil is evil, she's very much a demon, it's not that nuanced, at least not at this point, and also to establish the bigger things that are right now happening within the school. Like, we got a massive lore dump already here within this episode to firmly establish what Alto wants to become by being a magician, by being a wizard. And I actually really enjoyed that. I think the anime handled it way better than the manga did. At least I feel like it wasn't quite as generic as what we normally see in shonen right here. It came across way more effectively because the writing right now is tight, focusing in on overall plot and on developing Alto, while just simply relocating Vermeil right now to being an evil demon. Later on, then, the pacing can change when, in the manga, it begins to slow down to develop the love story. They can then say, okay, we are now going to properly adjust with that moment, and we can take all of this content that we've actually skipped, and we can now put it in a place where it makes more sense for them to talk, to have lovey-dovey moments, to share meals in a fun, cutesy way, and it will be really sweet and good. Now then, dropping a whole lot of context sometimes might not be really great in an adaptation. For instance, right here, as Alto and Vermeil face down Rex, it seems like Alto is just a really devious little brat who comes behind Rex and completely ambushes him with his special magical crystals. In the manga, however, it actually sets up that that's basically how Alto does things. Alto is a guy who does not like to get into head-on confrontations. He likes using his brain. He likes working around things. So he actually fights by getting literally around people and then ambushing them from behind. And that changes as the manga goes on because slowly over time, Alto becomes more assertive, becomes more self-assured, becomes more confident in his magical abilities, that he can face the big bads head on without much reservation. And that is some pretty nice subtle development that we're kind of losing in terms of the anime's pacing. So it's not necessarily that the anime does it better than the manga. There's definitely some things that come across better in the anime than they do in the manga, but the manga, by being more nuanced, definitely communicates a whole lot more through. This is one of the reasons why there's really no one good way of doing pacing. So as writers, one of the things that we need to pay attention to is how are we using the pacing within our own stories to communicate the evolution of plot and the evolution of characters. Are we going so fast that, yeah, we're definitely moving the plot along, but we're not giving the characters full advantage within the pages of our story to show this is who they are, this is how they grow? Or are we sometimes spending way too much time on our characters, showing every single little thought and conversation to the detriment of the plot? That's something for you to find out, and that's why I think it's really good, once again, that you have your own writing group that you discuss these things with. Again, we here at Camille's Harem, we definitely advocate for having friends to go on this adventure that we call writing with, so that way they can help you out with figuring out what will work best for your stories. But right now, as a viewer and as a fan of Vermeil and Gold, let me just say, I'm really enjoying the pacing of the anime thus far. It definitely has some great prose to it, well, maybe not the best in terms for certain characters like Alto. I'm hoping that this is actually what they're doing, and that they don't just completely drop the good parts of the relationship between Alto and Vermeil off by the wayside as the anime progresses. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. But if they go actually at this rate, basically adapting 3 chapters of the manga per episode, we are going to blast beyond where the manga is halfway through the season, and we'll be in completely uncharted territories by that point. This is a big gamble right here. As someone who reads the manga and enjoys the manga, this is a big gamble. It'll be very interesting to see. So again, don't just simply watch Vermeil and Gold for the entertainment and for the plot. I mean, the plot, but also continue to watch the show, because I think that there's going to be a lot that we can learn from it as it continues to unfold, really being able to look at the ever-evolving manga and the anime in real time. So, those are my thoughts. That's my analysis thus far. If you would like to have more good writing analyses here on Camille's Harem, please go check those out. We also have more writing advice and insight over at our podcast, Camille's Harem, which you can check out through the links down below. If you'd like to support us, please leave a comment, please please feel free to subscribe for more content just like this, and join us on over at our subreddit, at our Discord. Links for all that and more are down in the description. And until the next video, y'all, thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing. And tschüss.